Today, I'm talking to Matthew Miles from Silk Family Law. You've been described as a rising star from Legal 500, and you've been practicing for over 10 years. Is that right?
Yes, that's right.
So I wanted to talk to you about prenups today. Are they just for the rich and famous?
Well, prenups are, of course, popular in the likes of Hollywood, but it's a common misconception that they're just for the rich and famous. A prenup might be appropriate for any person who's getting married and is looking to protect specific assets, whether they're personal assets, such as a house, or business related, such as a family company. And it can be an awkward and unromantic topic of conversation to raise with your partner prior to a wedding, but it will save a lot of expense and acrimony in the long run if the marriage doesn't last. And so many couples benefit from having one. And prenups are a very positive thing if they're dealt with in a friendly and cooperative way. And in some ways, they're akin to an insurance policy. So you take out a policy in the hope that the event is unlikely to happen. If it does, then you're covered and there's protection to minimize your personal and financial loss.
Ideally, you'd be looking at putting a prenup in place prior to a wedding. But if you were to do it post-wedding, is there a particular time frame?
So it is possible to enter into what's known as a postnup, which is a similar legal agreement made between couples who are already married. And quite often a postnup is put in place in cases where a prenup is entered into relatively close to the wedding date to reinforce and mirror the terms of that agreement.
So are prenups legally binding in the UK?
So the short answer is no. Prenups aren't automatically legally binding in the UK. And this is because the family court retains overall discretion as to how to divide assets and income on a divorce, such as where there are children involved. But there have been a number of high-profile cases over recent years in which courts are just demonstrating an increasing readiness to uphold the terms of any prenup in existence. And there are 4 factors which should be satisfied for there to be the strongest chance of a prenup being upheld. So firstly, the prenup should be signed well in advance of the wedding date, and a minimum period of 28 days is recommended. And that's to ensure that there's a cooling off period, thereby minimizing any suggestion that either party is put under duress or pressure to sign the agreement. Secondly, both parties are expected to receive independent legal advice on the terms of the agreement before signing it. That's to ensure that everybody enters into the agreement with a full understanding of the implications of doing so. And in addition, there should be full disclosure of each other's financial circumstances. And that usually takes the form of a schedule, which is attached to the agreement itself. And this is to provide transparency so everybody has a clear understanding of each other's finances before entering into the prenup. And last but not least, the court's willingness to uphold the prenup will be greater if its terms are deemed to be fair. And what that means is that the court will only give effect to a prenup if it's fair to hold the parties to the financial settlement outlined in the agreement. And the issue of fairness primarily relates to a person's reasonable needs. So in other words, it would be unfair to uphold a prenup which prevented either party's housing or income needs from being met, or it placed the party or a dependent child in financial hardship.
What's the typical cost of a prenup?
So the cost for a prenup varies quite considerably, as it's dependent on the complexity of the terms which are being put in place, and also the level of negotiation required. So where there's substantial assets involved, we often find there's a much more detailed investigation of the finances that's required. And that might also involve other advisors, such as accountants or financial wealth managers or pension specialists. On the other end of the scale, for a relatively straightforward prenup, the cost is often in the region of, say, £1,500 to £2,000. And in some cases, a fixed fee can be agreed with the solicitor. Clearly, the costs are going to be greater for those cases with added complexities or considerations, but it's often money well spent for peace of mind.
You talked about how prenups can be a bit unromantic. Any tips on, if I was thinking of putting a prenup in place before getting married, any tips on some of the wording I could use to my partner?
Well, the agreement is primarily in place to provide certainty. So, for many couples who worry that if things go wrong, they could end up in a costly and lengthy argument about who gets what, the prenup provides clarification and certainty at the outset. And so, when raising the issue of a prenup, really the selling point and the purpose of entering into that is to provide everyone peace of mind.
Which makes sense. Thanks very much. It's been good talking to you. If people are watching right now and would like to put a prenup in place, what's the best way to contact you online, Matthew?
So if someone's interested in discussing a prenup or wanting representation in that regard, then the best place is to go onto the Silk Family Law website and the Meet the Team page, and all the details are on there. And I can be contacted by email or telephone at any time.
Brilliant. Thanks very much indeed. It's been great chatting to you, and I look forward to chatting to you again. Take care.
Thank you.